We'll talk about arrhythmia and different types of arrhythmias. Maybe next meeting we will discuss pharmacotherapy in depth, but as much as possible this afternoon, I will present to you guys what are the, to give you idea, what are the things we use as we manage our arrhythmia through anti-arrhythmic drugs and other drugs such as oral anticoagulants. Okay, so this is our learning outcomes for this topic. Just want you to read it later on when I'll be able to upload it in our classroom. Nevertheless, let's just proceed. Okay. So I have also downloaded a very basic YouTube video because I've mentioned a while ago, we are not really used to, or we are not really expected, no, to understand and or maybe read ECG results. Were you able to, to experience to have an ECG personally sa inyo? Meron ba kayo? Sino naka-experience magpa-ECG dito? Okay? Meron ba? So arrhythmias, class, no? Arrhythmias are disturbances in our normal heart rhythm. And it is detected through ECG. So an ECG is a device or is a laboratory equipment that has parang mga attachments. It is attached to our left part of the chest and some lower in the lower part. Basta it will help us, or it will help the record the rhythm of our heart. So it will detect abnormalities. It's not so big. Let's make it bigger. It will detect abnormalities in the impulse generation or conduction. So we have um we have to familiarize ourselves with the component of an ECG so that we'll be able to understand ano yung mga gamot na binibigay sa mga conditions na to. And also, frankly speaking, in some um, equivalency exams, for example, in US and Canada, they are expecting pharmacists to know how to interpret and to identify the problems or what are the specific arrhythmias based on ECG. So doon tayo may knowledge gap. Okay? Dapat handa kayo dito kasi doon talaga may knowledge gap. Kasi sa undergrad natin, we are not trained to read this one. So we just do crash course actually. During my review for the Canadian boards, I was trying my best to memorize and I think gumana naman, but yung sabi ko nga sa inyo before na yung adrenaline rush pag mag-rinse off na yan, wala na, mag-wash off na yan, biglang makalimutan na lang din natin. So hopefully, you'll be able to, tawag ito, from time to time, review yourself about ECG, our heartbeat, and then what is the pathophysiology of it. So just to give you a primer for the video that I will show in a while, these are the different types of arrhythmias that we can take note. We have supraventricular arrhythmia, and an example for that condition is atrial fibrillation. So for our curriculum or our syllabus, we have a focus topic among all arrhythmias. We have a focus topic specific for atrial fibrillation. So we have the whole chunk of the cake, and then we will get one piece of that, and then we will try to master atrial fibrillation because we cannot master everything at once. So I hope we will be able to um, remember atrial fibrillation. Then I don't know if some of you are fond of watching Grey's Anatomy or other series of that kind. We have always that in those series, the conditions involving ventricular arrhythmias. If you are, for example, sa ER, no, always sila nasa ER. Sinasabi, VTAC or VFib, okay, and the patients are getting some emergency drugs, no, naka-IV. So later on, we will identify ano yung binibigay pag may VTAC at may VFib ang pasyente. Okay? And then we have also bradyarrhythmias, bradycardia. Yun yung very slow heart rate, sinus bradycardia, and also AV block. Okay? And then premature complexes. So premature complexes, yung parang nauuna siya always sa expected rhythm niya. Okay? Kaya nga premature. So all of this, meron siyang specific figure or specific ano tawag dito? Specific placements to identify it in an ECG reading. So according to Katsung, these arrhythmias are episodically or persistently often coexist with a structural heart disease. So most of the time, these arrhythmias happen due to underlying condition, such as structural heart disease. So for example, sa childhood natin, may mga infections na nangyari. So for example, rheumatic heart disease due to persistent tonsillitis, and then it was not managed or treated, so it further developed to rheumatic heart disease. There's structural modification that affects the beating of the heart, that results to arrhythmias. So children and also adults that have structural heart disease are being monitored through 2D echo. 2D echo. Are you familiar with that one? 2D echo. It's a 2D echocardiogram. So the structures of the heart are visible to check if there are abnormalities, and then it is being confirmed with an ECG. So our jugs that are used to address these different types of arrhythmias are grouped by this classification, Vaughan-Williams classification. Okay, I hope you can still remember this one in your board exam. I think memorize nyo ito. Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4. Class 1 are sa sodium channel blockers. Class 2, we have beta blockers. Class 3, we have potassium channel blockers. And Class 4, we have calcium channel blockers. For Class 1A, we have here the moderate. For 1B, we have mild. So tandaan nyo class, ang 1A dapat, diba, as we expect it, it's mild. But 1A, antiarrhythmics, they are moderate sodium channel blockers. And 1B are the ones mild sodium channel blockers. And the 1C are strong sodium channel blockers. Okay? So yun siya ang kanyang mechanism in the sodium channels. So we have different phases in our heartbeat. Depolarization, repolarization, that is reflected in the ECG. And it is the reason, or it is the basis why these are the mechanism of actions of our drugs. So when there is sodium influx, potassium influx, the charges in our heart changes, so there would be beating. So ngayon, if we were going to play, or the drug will going to have an effect on the the presence of sodium and the presence of potassium and also calcium, there will be changes in the conduction of electricity. So that will help us manage erratic or abnormal rhythms. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if the subject of Doc Cherry on pathophysiology will include in detail the arrhythmias. But I just enumerated here the reasons, the main parang major reasons, pathophysiologic cause of different types of arrhythmia. Just for you to ponder on later with the subject pathophysiology. So these are the general parang conditions that leads to different types of arrhythmias. We have automaticity abnormalities, reentry circuits on the part of the reentry circuits, triggered activity, and conduction abnormality. So isa lang yung conduction abnormality sa na-mention ko a while ago. I think sa conduction abnormality, if you are very interested in reading or in parang mga current, hindi rin current, yung mga prevalence ng ng heart conditions, ang pinaka-common is bundle branch block na sometimes nandyan lang yan siya pero hindi binibigyan ng or na nade-detect siya sa childhood at saka sa mga adult or sa elders, tapos hindi naman siya masyadong nagko-cause ng death, but this is commonly present in as heart condition, no? Bundle branch block, either right bundle branch block or left bundle branch block. Okay, and then some of these really are parang comes with the role of the calcium and the potassium and the sodium into the heart. Okay, so arrhythmias may be precipitated also by ischemia. So ischemia, yung ating muscle is dying, right? So because of maybe resistant hypertension, and then so weak na yung mga muscles, yung heart is not really coordinating well, the conduction is poor. Then, as I've mentioned, electrolyte imbalance. So sometimes our patients are complaining of headache, complaining of palpitations, and most of the parang if it's mild to moderate, most of the management includes IV electrolyte replenishment, or kung sa bahay naman they take mga hydrate ganon, because might be that the patient is just dehydrated that resulted to palpitation, headache, and feeling dizzy and feeling hot or fuzzy. Okay? Ito siya, very prominent to siya kasi this is long-standing hypertension. This one can be, it precipitates arrhythmia but can be resolved at home or in the ER. This one, structural abnormalities, comes with a serious matrix and may be started from childhood and also during even at birth. And then drugs also and genetic factors. Okay, so I will leave this part here for the pathophysio subject. Okay. All right, so before we enter the clinical presentation, I will now show the video that I have found in YouTube. This is not me talking, but I'm not really, good at interpreting also EKG or ECG. That's why I ask help from some dito verified sources. So this is from Simple Nursing. And I have two videos here actually. Most of these are from nursing um, lectures, because as we all know, they are more inclined to, or they are more expected to learn these things compared to us. So please pay attention on the video.
Now for the 5-step EKG interpretation. Use these 5 steps to interpret any rhythm in 15 seconds or less. Step number 1 is all about the rate. Between 60 to 100 is normal sinus rhythm. Simply count the R peaks. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then multiply by 10, so that's a heart rate of 80. Perfect. The rate is between 60 and 100. Step number 2 is the rhythm. It should be regular and evenly spaced apart. So look at the R peaks and see if they're evenly spaced apart. To quickly measure this, just simply grab a paper, mark 2 R peaks, and then just move the paper over to see if it's evenly spaced. This is called marching it out. So just march it out and march it out and watch me nay nay. Okay. So the R peaks should be evenly spaced out every single time. Step number 3 is the P wave, which is the atria contracting. So is it present? And does it have a buddy? Or is it married to the QRS there? We need one P wave with every QRS every single time. It's kind of like the buddy system. Or I call these choo-choo trains. You have a little lump with a big lump. Step number 4 is the PR interval. Basically measures the time it takes between the atrial contraction and the ventricular contraction. Now, it should be 5 mini boxes or less. Or to get really fancy, it should be between 0.10 or 0.20 of a second. And lastly is the QRS, our big ventricular contraction there. So is it present? Is it upright? And is it tight? It should not be wide. It should only be about 3 little tiny boxes, or basically 0.12 of a second. And that wraps it up. We have 5 steps for EKG interpretation.
Okay, so let's just span through some important parts here. So this is how the EKG looks like. Okay, this is the normal ECG reading. So we have P, Q, R, S, and T. Okay, so it's very obvious how to count the heart rate. Ha? So tandaan ninyo yan class ha, if ever hindi nasulat ang heart rate sa chart ng patient, you will look at the R on that specific strip and count how many and times 10. Okay, so that's heart rate. Rhythm. You can he said a while ago that you do the rhythm using the paper strips like this. But sometimes kasi nagmamadali or siguro hindi naman talaga kailangan para sa atin, but you can imagine it naman if it's, or you can parang approximate it, right? You can approximate it if the RR interval is parang approximately the same. So if ever I will give you 10 of these EKG strip just to identify the rhythm, regular and irregular, you have to see the RR if it's on the same distance from each other. If approximately the same, the rhythm is regular. Are you following, class? Is it making sense? If the rhythm of, or if the RR is near and then far away na naman and near na naman or very near to each other, like look at this. This is quite like, balikan natin dito na part. Yung malaki. Saan ba yun? Yung picture na yun. Ito. Ay, hindi. Saan yung mas malaki picture? Okay, dito. Ma-identify nyo naman siguro gaano kalaki ang PQRS, tsaka T. So, if magdo-drawing ka daw ng boxes na mga parang grid lines, most probably nandun siya, ang approximate na interval is nasa 4 to 5. So, kung very close to each other, ang R, no, it's irregular pa rin. Very close very close pero approximately the same, there might be fast rhythm. Then very far from each other and consistent din, pareho na very far from each other, that is called sinus bradycardia. A while ago, di ba, I mentioned about sinus bradycardia. Again, balikan natin ha. Ito siya. Tingnan niyo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kung 5 boxes, approximately makita ninyo, 5 boxes yan siya apart from each other consistently. That is sinus regular rhythm. Pag 3 maybe, very close to each other yan, nandito yung R. No, may isang R dito, may isang peak ng R dito, tapos may isang another peak dito. So very fast ang beating. So that's sinus pa rin kasi. Kung sinus, sabihin natin na pag sinabi nating sinus, consistently pareho ang space. Okay? Pero pag mabilis, sinus tachycardia. Pag longer yung interval, sinus bradycardia. Okay? Ang magiging tawag sa rhythm. Ngayon, kaya yung ating syllabus o yung ating yung inyong subject naka-focus sa atrial fibrillation because sa atrial fibrillation, ang atrial fibrillation condition is irregular beatings of heart. So, walang parehong R peaks ang atrial fibrillation. I will say it again ha. In sinus bradycardia and sinus tachycardia, the difference between R is consistently approximately the same. But the rhythm is either it's too fast because the R are near each other or too slow because the R is far from each other. Those are sinus tachycardia and sinus bradycardia. But that's why we included atrial fibrillation specifically because atrial fibrillation is very tricky because it is irregular beats. So, short, long, ang kanyang na walang magkapareho, meaning erratic talaga. Whirlwind ang atrial fibrillation. Kumbaga, pareho sila halos ng condition na tinatawag nating torsade de Pointes. Are you familiar with torsade de Pointes? Because torsade de Pointes, it's mostly triggered by drugs. But atrial fibrillation is triggered by our cardiovascular events such as hypertension or maybe even stress. Okay? Yan siya. So, the P wave, okay? The P wave here, sabi, has to be paired always with QRS. So, ito yung ating QRS. Now, the P and the R interval. Yan. Tingnan yung P and R interval. Meron siyang specific also na boxes. So, we don't need to memorize, but just familiarize yourself how far or how long is P, how QRS looks like, no? And then later on you will have the skill to understand that to develop to understand it better.
us have a better understanding of what's going on inside the heart as it generates a heartbeat. The first concept that we are going to discuss is the conduction system of the heart. Now, the conduction system of the heart is pretty much these special cardiac cells right here that are responsible in conducting signals that cause the heart to contract. The first cell is called the SA node, right here, or the sinoatrial node. By its name, sinoatrial, this cell is found within the right atrium of the heart. This is also known as the natural pacemaker of the heart because this is where the beginning of the conduction takes place. So from the SA node, the conduction goes to the AV node or the atrioventricular node. By its name, this can be found within the border of the right atrium and the right ventricle. The AV node is also known as the gatekeeper of the heart. And the reason being is that it gets to decide what impulse to let through. So, if the SA node generates a weak impulse or there is a block here somewhere, the AV node will perceive that and will decide not to let the impulse go through, and instead it will conduct its own impulse. So, from the AV node, it goes to the single structure right here called the bundle of His. And from the bundle of His, the cells will continue and will bifurcate into two separate cells, one to the left and one to the right. And this will now be called the left and right bundle branches. And from the bundle branches, they will extend within the apex of the heart. They will be called the Purkinje fibers. So again, the conduction system of the heart begins at the SA node, goes to the AV node. Next is the bundle of His, the right and the left bundle branches, and then eventually Purkinje fibers. So another concept that we need to discuss will be the inherent rate of these cardiac cells. When you say inherent rates, these are pretty much the heart rate that we generate depending on which cardiac cell sends an impulse. So for example, if the SA node starts it all and it goes all the way to the Purkinje fibers, this will generate a heart rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute. It starts from here, goes all the way to the Purkinje fibers, that will generate a heart rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute. However, for some reason, if the SA node fails or there's a block somewhere here, then the AV node will kick in. It will generate its own impulse. And when this happens, the AV node will generate a heart rate of 40 to 60 beats per minute. And that also includes the bundle of His. The bundle of His also will generate its own impulse, and it's enough to make 40 to 60 beats per minute. And if the AV node or the bundle of His fail, then the left and the right bundle branches and the Purkinje fibers will generate their own impulse, and they have the capacity to make a heartbeat up to 20 to 40 beats per minute. So now, let us talk about EKG. It has different parts. We will start with this small bump right here called the P wave, followed by this tall structure right here called the QRS complex. And lastly, the last bump after the QRS complex would be the T wave. Let us discuss them one by one. Let's start off with P wave. The P wave represents atrial depolarization. During atrial depolarization, the two atria are contracting. Next up, the QRS complex. Now, the QRS complex represents ventricular depolarization. During ventricular depolarization, the ventricles of the heart are contracting. Depolarization is for contraction. So how would you know which one is which? That P wave is for atria while QRS is to ventricles. So if you look at the diagram right here, the QRS complex, it kind of looks like an inverted V. So V for ventricles. So when you see a QRS complex, think about ventricular depolarization. So lastly, we have the T wave. The T wave represents ventricular repolarization. This is when the ventricles are relaxing. Keep in mind that every depolarization is always followed by repolarization. So for every contraction will be followed by relaxation. That being said, the question is, where is atrial repolarization? So if QRS represents ventricular depolarization or contraction, and T wave represents ventricular repolarization or relaxation, then where is atrial repolarization if this is depolarization? Well, it can be found within the QRS complex. As you can see, the QRS complex, it's a tall structure. Because ventricles tend to contract stronger than the atria, they tend to mask the atrial repolarization. And so, that being said, atrial repolarization and relaxation takes place after the P wave, which can be found within the QRS complex. Now, as a review, P wave stands for atrial depolarization. The QRS complex represents ventricular depolarization. The T wave represents ventricular repolarization, and the atrial repolarization is covered by the QRS complex. You can't see it, but it exists. So now let us talk about the segments and intervals in the EKG diagram. There are a bunch, starting off with the PR interval, the PR segment, the QRS complex, the ST segment, and the QT interval. But to make it easy for you guys, we are just going to talk about the PR interval and the QRS complex. These are all we need to do the EKG interpretation. The other segments, they are important too, but we don't really need them to interpret an EKG faster and more efficient. So this is your typical EKG strip. In an EKG strip, we have a big box. And inside a big box, we have 5 small boxes. Each small boxes is equal to 0.04 seconds. And so if in a big box there are 5 small boxes, that means that one big box is equal to 0.20 seconds. But really, as long as you know that one small box is 0.04 seconds, we're good to go. So let us get on with our 6-step EKG interpretation. First up, we have to identify and examine the P waves, measure the PR interval, measure the QRS complex, identify the rhythm, determine the heart rate, and interpret your strip. And we're going to talk about them one by one. Let's start off with identify and examine your P waves right here. The normal P wave would be present and upright. If the P wave is absent or inverted, then it could indicate a form of dysrhythmia such as a junctional rhythm. Next up, we are going to measure the PR interval. PR interval is the distance between the beginning of the P wave and the beginning of the QRS complex. What we do is we count the number of small boxes in between and multiply it by 0.04 seconds. Our magic number for the PR interval is 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. Anything more than 0.20 seconds could indicate another dysrhythmia such as heart blocks. Third would be to measure the QRS complex. Just like the PR interval, we are going to measure the small boxes in between the QRS complex. Our magic number is 0.06 to 0.12 seconds. Anything more than 0.12 could indicate a dysrhythmia such as a PVC. Number 4 is we have to identify the rhythm of our strip. It could be regular or irregular. And the way we do this is we measure the distance between Rs and Rs. Some people use calipers to do this, but really all you need is an index card. Mark your Rs and march them with the rest of the Rs. If they have the same distance, then your rhythm is regular. Otherwise, they are irregular. Fifth step is when we identify our heart rate. Now, before we calculate our heart rate, it is very important for us to know that our EKG is a 6-second strip. And the way we will know this is when we find these 3 lines right over here. If you see these lines, this means that from the first line up to the 3rd line, that would be your 6-second strip. The reason why this is important is that if it is a 6-second strip, then we can do a technique called the 6-second method. And the way we do this is that we count the number of R's between these three lines right here and multiply them by 10. So for this strip, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and multiply that by 10. That will give us a heart rate of 60 beats per minute. One thing to remember is that this method works best for irregular rhythms. And another tip that I can tell you is that you have to be very, very careful in using the 6-second method. You always have to verify that the strip that you're reading is indeed a 6-second strip. I know some teachers include strips that appear to be 6-second strips, but they're really not. They don't have these 3 lines right here. And students actually mess up the heart rate because they use the 6-second method. This method only works for 6-second strips, okay? Second method that we can use to calculate the heart rate is the big box method. And the way this works is that we divide 300 by the number of big boxes between 2 R's. Our magic number is 300. So for this strip, we are going to use these 2 R's right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big boxes in between R's. And so, using the formula, 300 divided by 5, we have 60 beats per minute. This method works better for regular rhythms only. And this is actually the method that you can use if you don't have a 6-second strip in front of you. And the final step is interpret your strip.
So that is it for today, guys. I hope you find that helpful. And if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button.
Okay, so I hope you pay attention to Nurse. Anong pangalan nun ni Nurse? Okay. So, he has shown us where P wave is located. Every time P wave is measured, where is it located? And it is about atrial depolarization. Then QRS is about ventricular depolarization or contraction, but it also has the atrial contraction merged to it, but it is more pronounced yung ventricular contraction. Then we have the T wave, which is the ventricular repolarization or ventricular tawag ito? Relaxation. Okay. So those things happen because of this in our cardiomyocyte or in our cardiac muscles. Okay? So yun siya is a way of having it express it in using the ECG. And this one naman is in terms of what we call as action potential. So this is an annotated slide already. This is from my review. I want to show you guys what happens in the cell heart muscle. No? Diba na-mention kanina si SA node, si AV node, and then we have our left and right bundle going to Purkinje fibers. Okay, so and if the natural pacemaker, our SA node, works, it has 60 to 100 beats, and this is what happened during the beat, single heartbeat. Meron tayong tinatawag na zero phase, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So this is the single beat in terms or expressed as action potential. Yung kanina doon sa video, ang ating expression of a heartbeat is through the ECG. It looks like this. Okay, it looks like this. One heartbeat expressed using an ECG. But a heartbeat looks like this if we were going to examine it using or in context of an action potential. And as pharmacists, the mechanism of action of the drugs that regulates the heartbeat or the arrhythmias is better understood using this figure. Okay, so we have here membrane potential in the left side. Can you pay attention to this one? We have plus 20, 0, negative 20, negative 40, negative 60, and negative 80. So this is phase 4, the resting mode. Resting mode meaning to say, nag-relax siya. Ngayon, papasok si sodium, lalabas si potassium. So there will be change in our action potential. So that change in action potential actually is a heartbeat. No? Change ka doon. Tingnan nyo from negative 80 na action potential, it will go as high as positive 20. Okay. So during that transition of sodium in and potassium out, there is fast transient repolarization. So repolarization, ano nga yung repolarization? Contraction or relaxation? Ano yung sabi ni Sir kanina? Repolarization is, balikan natin ha. Kung si depolarization ay contraction, repolarization is relaxation. Okay? So, this is a fast transient repolarization dito. Ngayon, if maybe that gated channel there remains open, calcium and potassium will going to move in and out of that ion gated channel. Okay, so it will cause a plateau here. Okay, that plateau will cause depolarization or contraction. And then when there's complete repolarization, potassium will go out and it will relax now. So this is a single heartbeat that happened in our sodium ion channels, no? And in the plasma, or specifically in the cardiomyocytes or in the heart muscle. So it can be tawag nito, it can be displayed this way, but this is the most expanded version where you can see there is the resting mode, the upstroke, the plateau, and the relaxation, the complete relaxation. Okay, this is the normal cardiomyocyte where a heartbeat is also beating regularly with regular R intervals. Are you following? There's regular R intervals. So ganito yung ating normal physiologic function. But in some cases, nag-extend itong part sa phase 2. Pag nag-e-extend ang phase 2, what happened is extended ang contraction. Right? So kung extended ang contraction, the beating will be fast. Tama ba? So if extended ito dito, more calcium ang pumapasok, di ba the calcium causes contraction? Are you following with our pharmacology and what are we talking about here? If there's more calcium, the muscle of our body, especially we're talking about the heart, it promotes contraction. So it will going to cause faster beats. Okay, so longer phase 2 plateau might result to shorter R intervals because of fast heartbeat, right? And also here, we have here phase 1, the sodium in, where there will be our atrial depolarization. So may mga problems that involves the sodium here. The sodium getting inside our channels. So, kaya meron tayong mga anti-arrhythmic drugs that allows or that tawag nito that acts on the sodium channels. And these are the class 1 sodium channel blockers because of the involvement of sodium here. We have class 2, the beta blockers. The beta blockers allows lower heart rate, or it allows more relaxation to happen. Si calcium, si potassium, it comes with the resting also here in this space. And si calcium blockers, this one. So, it's important to note, for example, si calcium, bakit kayo gumagamit ng calcium instead of sodium? Because if ever it was checked in this diagram, this is extended, so calcium channel blockers ang ibibigay, hindi sodium channel blockers. Okay, so there are reasons ano yung dapat ibigay natin na anti-arrhythmic drugs. So if you want to memorize it, this is my mnemonic for that. Some block potassium channel. So actually, it's letter S, sodium, B, beta blockers, P, potassium, C, calcium. So just some block potassium channels. Those are anti-arrhythmics. And then I don't know how you will memorize this. Maybe you just look at it for some time and just isipin nyo na lang na mapa ito para mas maintindihan ninyo. So potassium and sodium, saan siya makikita? Dito na part. Si potassium also dito na part. Ang importante talaga is makita nyo saan pag pumasok na yung calcium, ano mangyayari sa action potential. Nagpa-plateau, meaning nagde-depolarize na sustained or sustained contraction. That is our systole there, the systole. And pag lumabas na yung potassium, pag lumabas yung potassium, that's diastole, or repolarization or relaxation. Okay? And then, by next week, I will discuss to you now why class 1 is differentiated as 1A, 1B, and 1C. But not today, okay? Because that's too much already. We have 2 quizzes, and we had the background naman of how ECG looks like, how the action potential looks like, what are the different type of arrhythmias. So I want you to review pharmacology, cardiovascular pharmacology, so you'll be able to remember this and all the channels that are related to our cardiovascular system. Okay, para it will be easy for us to discuss drugs and discuss rate and rhythm control. Because for arrhythmia, there are basically 2 different approaches, the rate control and the rhythm control. And algorithms will help us or guide us when to use rate control and rhythm control. And aside from that, rate and rhythm control, there are also stroke prevention management that involves oral anticoagulants, that that will help patients not develop or not experience stroke.